Hey y'all, welcome back. It's Sarah here, and today we are wrapping up my January TBR. All right, I've got my phone here and I have my Goodreads open because my book stack this month seems very short. It was a little bit of a slow reading month for me this month. I kind of felt like I had a hard time getting back into the groove of things, kind of after the holidays and after the first of the year. So I only have a couple of physical books to show you. I do have a couple of additional audiobooks and things like that. I think I've got a library book or two also that obviously I don't have with me because I've already returned them. So I had to grab my Goodreads so I could go over everything with you. So the first book that I read that technically was not on my TBR for this month, but the first book that I read was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And I'm gonna go ahead and apologize in advance because every time I think Blake Crouch, I almost say Barty Crouch because, that I just equate that, Harry Potter. I don't know. Every time I say Blake Crouch, then I go, wait, was that the right name? So I listened to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. That was the first audiobook that I listened to this year. Phenomenal, very technical, very science-y, and I absolutely loved it. It was such a strong 5 stars for me that's actually what made me pick up my second book of the year, and that was Upgrade, also by Blake Crouch. This one, again, very science-y, very technical, talked very in depth about DNA and biology, and really loved this one as well. I got this one in my in Book of the Month back last year, I think, when it was last year when it was released in Book of the Month, and everybody was talking about it, and so I snatched it up real quick and then did not immediately read it like I do most of my Book of the Months. But as soon as I listened to Dark Matter, I knew I wanted to jump into this one really quickly. I do, because I loved those two so much, I actually ordered Recursion, which I think is his second book. I ordered that one that's coming in a few days in my Book of the Month. So I think I said this in my January favorites video, but Blake Crouch now is an automatic to buy author. Like anytime he announces something, I will go out and purchase it. I just thought they were so phenomenal. Like I said, very science-y, but also very well written so that someone like me who does not understand biology and science and things of that nature, I could still understand it and enjoy it. So 2 super strong 5-star reads for me. The next audiobook that I listened to was One of Us is Lying, and that is by Karen M. McManus. I know the last couple of years I've seen a lot of people that have been going through this series. I listened to this one on audiobook and I enjoyed it. The premise is it's kind of like, I can't remember what they call it. It's like, is it Breakfast Club meets Pretty Little Liars, I think is what they've been calling it. So like these 4 kids, these 4 teenagers, all of them, like one is a super popular girl, one is a jock, one is like kind of a loser / drug, like drug dealer essentially. And then one of them is like this other like the straight A kid, she's in all the extracurriculars and everything. So they all 4 get put into detention together with this other kid, and one of them dies. And so then of course the 4 of them are all blamed, and we go throughout, trying to figure out who did it, and you really get to know these 4 characters, and the whole time you're kind of thinking like, I don't really see how that person could do it, or, like, maybe that one could do it. And, so there's a lot of blame casting, and almost like there's like secret backstories that are kind of revealed and stuff. And overall, it was a good kind of like a psychological, I wouldn't really call it a thriller. I guess maybe I would call it a mystery. But I did think it was really good. I figured out who the killer was part of the way through, and I never figure out the whodunit part, so that was enjoyable to me. But I did not necessarily figure out like how it all was done and all of the backstory leading up to it. So the reveal of all of that was really entertaining to me. I gave this a strong 4 stars. Like I said, I did enjoy it, and it is the beginning of a series, so I think there's at least 3, maybe 4 in this series. And my library only had the first one, so I didn't realize that until after I already was listening to it, that now I have to go figure out how to get the rest of the series. But I did really enjoy this, and like I said, it was a 4-star for me. The next audiobook that I listened to, like I said, very few physical books, ton of audiobooks. The next audiobook that I listened to was The Woman in the Window. So we follow, I think we actually get the point of view of our protagonist, who is an agoraphobe. She is stuck in her house, and she doesn't go out at all. Basically her only communication, like, of course, she has her groceries delivered, and she has she works online, and we find out that she like was a psychologist, and she has lost her license, but she's still working as a consultant. And so she has lost her husband and her daughter. And so we listen in on these phone calls to them, and she communicates on this message board for fellow agoraphobes, and that's kind of how she reveals part of her story, is through telling the folks on the message board, kind of about her and what her story is. And she witnesses what she thinks is a murder across it says across the park, which I don't really know how far away that is. To me, it seemed like across the street. And nobody believes her. And so she is like trying to think, okay, am I going crazy? No, I swear I met this person. I know who this person is. I saw what I saw. I saw this happen. Nobody believes her. So it's essentially the unraveling of this tale. Who is this woman? Did she really exist? And where is she now? Was she murdered, or did she run away, or what happened to her? So this was a pretty good one. I did, again, I kind of could piece out bits and pieces of the story. There are a couple of twists along the way, and I figured out a couple of them, and then the big one at the very end I did not figure out. So it was entertaining. I did enjoy the way that that everything was revealed to us, but I found myself not really sympathizing, I guess, with our protagonist. I thought she was kind of annoying, and she did kind of come off as a little bit crazy. So didn't love her necessarily, but I did overall enjoy the story. All right, next we're back to physical books. I read Verity for my book club that's here in my town. We all read Verity this month, and this is the one I picked up last year. It does have the extra chapter in it. This one was really good. It's a lot of people say it's totally unlike anything Colleen Hoover has ever written before. I don't fully subscribe to that, because she has a way of writing these stories where you're rooting for the main characters, even though like their story all along the way is super messed up. Like November 9, that one was crazy messed up, and like twisty and turny, and and at some points you kind of go like, no, I don't want them to be together, but then you're like, oh yeah, but maybe they do deserve to be happy together. And so a lot of people say this is super different from everything that she's written, and honestly, it's very polarizing. A lot of people just don't like it at all. I liked it. It was a wild ride. So we are following our main protagonist is Lowen, and she is going to be basically a oh my god, what do you call it? Not really a ghostwriter, kind of a ghostwriter for Verity Crawford, who is a best-selling novelist, but she's been in an accident, so she is not able to, she's got basically a contract for 3 more books in this best-selling series, and she's been in an accident and is basically essentially incapacitated, and so she can't write anymore. So Verity's husband hires Lowen to basically ghostwrite the 3 remaining novels of the series. And she goes into their home, and she like goes all through Verity's office and wants to sit in her office and just like be in her surroundings and read, read some of her work. She goes on her laptop and wants to find like notes that she's made about the series or about the characters and whatnot. And she ends up finding what looks to be an autobiography. So she finds this manuscript where she confesses to basically being a terrible person. And so Lowen has convinced herself that Verity is this terrible human, and she's basically brought all of this bad stuff on herself. So ultimately, at the end, we're left to decide, was this manuscript real, or was she really confessing to doing all of these terrible things and basically being this terrible person, or was this not true at all? And so I don't want to spoil too much, because like I said, there is an extra chapter in here that kind of gives you a little bit more of the story. So I don't want to spoil too much, but this is a twisty, turny, like at some points you really hate this person, and then at some points you like kind of feel bad for them. It's one of those. So this was about a 4.5 star for me. Okay, we got a visitor here. The next audiobook that I listened to is called The Dry. All right, so you got to sit down. It is by
called Dry.
The Dry, right there. It's called The Dry, and it is by Jane Harper. And this is, again, the beginning of a series. Bub, you got to sit down if you're going to be in here, okay? Thank you. This is another new series that I did not realize was a new series. So in this book, we follow a man named Aaron Falk. And this all takes place in Australia, so I wasn't super familiar with...
that one is next.
Okay, thank you.
You already did it.
I did it already. So I wasn't super familiar with a lot of the places that they were talking about.
Can you do that one again?
No, baby, hush. But they did mention Melbourne. I think he moved away to Melbourne. He grew up in this very small town, and then when he was in high school, he was accused of a crime. One of his friends was killed, and he was accused of being the murderer, and so he and his father basically escaped, left town, and 20 years later he ends up coming back, and he has maintained his innocence the entire time, but he still has this like blemish. Everyone still looks at him with suspicion that he's the one that did it, and so he...
Hold
on. So he not only has to clear his own name, but now he comes back because something has happened to his best friend. And so he ends up coming back to find out what happened to his best friend, but in the process really is trying to clear his own name as well. Next, I read It Ends With Us, and this is another Colleen Hoover, and this is another start to the series. So I read this because my book club is actually doing this one in March. So I put this one on the wait list for the library, and it just came up. So I went ahead and read it. This one, there's a lot of trigger warnings for this. There's some DV in there. And so...
Mommy, a DVD in this one?
No.
Which one has the DVD?
Honey. Hey. Quiet, please. So, yes. So if that's a trigger for you, maybe skip this one. But overall, I appreciated the story, and I think that it did need to be told the way that it was told, and I felt like the ending was the one that we needed to have. I wouldn't have been happy or satisfied had it ended some other way.
Wow.
Okay, next I finally read a book on my Kindle, and the book that I read is called I Love Rock and Roll, another brand new series. Guys, I'm go. I don't know. I don't know. This is just what has been available. So this is part of the Underground Granny Matchmakers series. It's one of these like sweet romances. You know, there's not any spice to it whatsoever. We follow a girl who is like this country singer. She moves to Nashville to make it big, and then she gets her big break when this famous rock musician, his brother is his manager, and so she is like the squeaky clean good girl, and the rock musician has, you know, a bad reputation, and so the brother slash manager decides that he is going to have this like fake dating scheme to set them up so that they, you know, she can basically clean up his reputation. And then the brother meets her and goes, oh wait, no, I think maybe I might kind of like this girl. I don't want her reputation to be ruined by the rock musician's reputation. So he tries to call it all off. In the meantime, she decides no, she really needs the money. She really wants to do it. So they end up going on this tour together, and they basically let the rumors fly. And it is sweet. It's a nice, sweet romance, and it's called the Granny Matchmakers because the grandmothers are the ones that set them up, and like Granny's on TikTok and she's got millions of followers and everything. So it's really cute the way that it unfolds. Not like the strongest storyline for me, so this one was a 3.5 star. The last audiobook that I listened to for the month is called Ruby Red. Another series beginning.
This one?
I don't know why I keep doing this. But again, I just like, you know, I just see whatever's available on Libby because I have a really long commute, and, you know, so I just have been listening to a ton of audiobooks. And so, so this one is called Ruby Red. It's kind of cute. It's like a YA time travel. So it's about these teenagers who learn they can travel in time, and this is only the first one, so a lot of it was just this girl, the main protagonist. Yes. Just finding out that she is able to time travel, and, you know, kind of just doing her first couple of travels and learning that and figuring out how that all works and everything. So I feel like this was just a lot of world building and foundation setting for the rest of the series. I think there are 2 additional books in the series. The second one, this one was called Ruby Red. The second one is called Sapphire Blue. And then I think the third one is called like Aquamarine or something. I can't remember. But anyway, this one, again, it was certainly good fun, but not just the strongest storyline. So this one was a 3 star for me. I'm gonna go ahead and mention this next book here because I did read about half of it, but I didn't finish, but it was on my TBR, so I still want to talk about it. And what I'm referring to is Madly Deeply. This is the Diaries of Alan Rickman. I've heard a lot of people say this was really tough to get through, and I wholeheartedly agree. I wanted to love this, but what I have come, hey, stop. What I've come to realize is that
Wow. Purple.
in the UK, they use the term diary
Green.
like we would use day planner or calendar. So really, he's just talking about like the restaurant that he went to
Black,
and the set that he worked on and who was at dinner and the conversation that he had with his wife. And, you know, so it really is more just the chronicles of his day and not so much there is a little bit of, you know, kind of backstage storytelling and things like that, but certainly not as much as I thought was going to go on. So I am on page 185, and there's like 400 and something pages in this book. 455 pages in this book. So I'm not quite 50% through. And there were many, many days that I just did not read from this at all. It doesn't read like a story, and so it is really hard to get through and read like a ton all at once. So I'm gonna keep plugging away at this. No.
Did you put these soaps in?
I'm gonna keep plugging away at this, but I wanted to mention it because, like I said, it was on my TBR for the month. Because I had such a slow month, I did not get to the other 2 books that were on my original TBR. And one of those is The Energy Bus. This one is 10 Rules to Fuel Your Life, Work, and Team with Positive Energy. James. Just didn't get to this one. And then the other one was The Wilder Women. And this one is by Ruth Emmy Lang. This was going to be my second book of the month that I was going to read for last month. And again, I just didn't get to it. So we have a short month this month. I'm also traveling. I'm leaving in just a couple of days. I'll be gone for the majority of the week. So I'm going to a conference, and I typically don't get anything done outside of actual conference events when I'm at these conferences. So there's very little doubt in my mind that basically no reading will get done. But I'm gonna try when I get home, and I'm gonna try for the rest of, basically the rest of the afternoon today. Hopefully, I mean, geez, if someone will leave me alone, I'll be able to get something done. Anyway, I already posted my February TBR, which I will go ahead and link so you can check that out, what I'll be reading. And let me also know what your kind of standout book was for the month of January. Mine, I don't even know where it is anymore because he's been in here tearing stuff up. My standout book for the month was Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Totally loved it. Like I said, super, super strong, 5 stars for me. Let me know what you have read and loved or what you are planning to read. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll talk to you really soon. Bye.